Muladhara Chakra. In the space outside the Meru, placed on the left and the right, are the two Siras, Sasi and Mihira. The Nadi Sushumna, whose substance is the threefold gunas, is in the middle. She is the form of moon, sun, and fire. Her body, a string of blooming dhatura flowers, extends from the middle of the kanda to the head, and the Vajra inside her extends, shining, from the Medhra to the head. Inside her, Vajra, is Chitrini, who is lustrous with the luster of the Pranav and attainable in yoga by yogis. She, Chitrini, is subtle as a spider's thread, and pierces all the lotuses which are placed within the backbone, and is pure intelligence. She, Chitrini, is beautiful by reason of these lotuses which are strung on her. Inside her, Chitrini, is the Brahmanadi, which extends from the orifice of the mouth of Hara to the place beyond, where Adideva is. She, Chitrini, is beautiful like a chain of lightning and fine like a lotus fiber, and shines in the minds of the sages. She is extremely subtle, the awakener of pure knowledge, the embodiment of all bliss, whose true nature is pure consciousness. The Brahmadvara shines in her mouth. This place in the entrance to the region sprinkled by ambrosia, and is called the knot, as also the mouth of Sushumna. Now we come to the Adhra lotus. It is attached to the mouth of the Sushumna, and is placed below the genitals and above the anus. It has 4 petals of crimson hue. Its head, mouth, hangs downwards. On its petals are the 4 letters from Vatusa, of the shining color of gold. In this lotus is the square region, Chakra, of Prithvi, surrounded by 8 shining spears. It is of a shining yellow color and beautiful like lightning, as is also the bija of Dhara which is within. Ornamented with 4 arms and mounted on the king of elephants, he carries on his lap the child creator, resplendent like the young sun, who has 4 lustrous arms, and the wealth of whose lotus face is 4-fold. Here dwells the Devi Dakini by name. Her 4 arms shine with beauty, and her eyes are brilliant red. She is resplendent like the luster of many suns rising at one and the same time. She is the carrier of the revelation of the ever-pure intelligence. Near the mouth of the Nadi called Vajra, and in the pericarp of the Adhra lotus, there constantly shines the beautifully luminous and soft, lightning-like triangle which is Kamrupa, and known as Tripura. There is always and everywhere the Vayu called Kandak, who is of a deeper red than the Bandhujiva flower. Inside it, the triangle, is Swayambhu in his linga form, beautiful like molten gold, with his head downwards. He is revealed by knowledge and meditation, and is of the shape and color of a new leaf. As the cool ray sought lightning and of the full moon charm, so does his beauty. The Deva who resides happily here as in Kashi is in forms like a whirlpool. Over it, Swayambhulinga, shines the sleeping Kundalini, fine as the fiber of the lotus stalk. She is the world bewilderer, gently covering the mouth of Brahmadvara by her own. Like the spiral of the conch shell, her shining snake-like form goes 3.5 times round Shiva, and her luster is as that of a strong flash of young strong lightning. Her sweet murmur is like the indistinct hum of swarms of love-mad bees. She produces melodious poetry and bandha and all other compositions in prose or verse in sequence or otherwise in Sanskrita, Prakrita and other languages. It is she who maintains all the beings of the world by means of inspiration and expiration, and shines in the cavity of the root, Mula, lotus like a chain of brilliant lights. Within it, Swayambhulinga, round which Kundalini is called, reigns dominant Para, the Shri Parameshwari, the awakener of eternal knowledge. She is the omnipotent Kala who is wonderfully skillful to create, and is subtler than the subtlest. She is the receptacle of that continuous stream of ambrosia which flows from the eternal bliss. By her radiance it is that the whole of this universe and this cauldron is illumined. By meditating thus on her who shines within the Mulachakra, with the luster of 10 million suns, a man becomes lord of speech and king among men, and an adept in all kinds of learning. he becomes ever free from all diseases, and his inmost spirit becomes full of great gladness. Svadhishthana Chakra. There is another lotus, the Svadhishthana Chakra, placed inside the Sushumna at the root of the genitals, of a beautiful vermilion color. On its 6 petals are the letters from BA to Puramdara, the letter La, with the Bindu, the Anuswara, superposed, of the shining color of lightning. Within it, Svadhisthana, is the white, shining, watery region of Varuna, of the shape of a half-moon, and therein, seated on a makra, mythical animal somewhat like an alligator, is the Bija Vam, stainless and white as the autumnal moon. May Hari who is within it, Vishnu is within the lap of the Bindu of Vam, who is in the pride of early youth, whose body is of a luminous blue beautiful to behold, who is dressed in yellow raiment, is four-armed, and wears the Srivatsa, an auspicious curl on the breast of Vishnu and his avatar, Krishna, which symbolize Prakriti, and the Kaustubha, a great gem worn by Vishnu, protect us. It is here, in the Svadhisthana, that Rakini always dwells, Bhati, lit, shines. She is of the color of a blue lotus. The beauty of her body is enhanced by her uplifted arms holding various weapons. She is dressed in celestial raiment and ornaments, and her mind is exalted with the drinking of ambrosia. He who meditates upon this stainless lotus, which is named Svadhisthana, is freed immediately from all his enemies, the 6 passions, i.e., Kama, lust, Krodha, anger, Lobha, greed, Moha, delusion, Mada, pride, Matsarya, envy, which all arise from a sense of meanness, Ahamakara, such as the fault of Ahamakara, egoism, and so forth. He becomes a lord among yogis, and is like the sun illumining the dense darkness of ignorance, Moha. Manipura Chakra. Above Svadhisthana, and at the root of the navel, is a shining lotus of 10 petals, of the color of heavy-laden rain clouds. Within it are the letters Dhatufa, of the color of the blue lotus with the Nara and Bindu above them. Meditate there on the region of fire, triangular in form and shining like the rising sun. Outside it are 3 swastika marks, and within, the Bija of Vahani, Ram, the seed mantra of fire, himself. Meditate upon him, fire, seated on a Ram, four-armed, radiant like the rising sun. In his lap ever dwells Rudra, who is of a pure vermilion hue. He, Rudra, is white with the ashes with which he is smeared, of an ancient aspect and three-eyed. His hands are placed in the attitude of granting boons and of dispelling fear. He is the destroyer of creation. Here abides Lakini, the benefactress of all. She is four-armed, of radiant body, is dark, of complexion, clothed in yellow raiment and decked with various ornaments, and exalted with the drinking of ambrosia. By meditating on this navel lotus, the power to destroy and create the world is acquired. Vani, Saraswati, Devi of speech, with all the wealth of knowledge ever abides in the lotus of his face. Anahata Chakra. Above that, in the heart, is the charming lotus of the shining color of the Bandhuka flower, Pentapes phoenicia, sometimes known as scarlet marrow, with the 12 letters beginning with Ka, of the color of vermilion, placed therein. It is known by its name of Anahata, and is like the celestial wishing tree, bestowing even more than the supplicant's desire. The region of Vayu, beautiful and with 6 corners, is equal to lit, Satkona is equal to interlacing triangles, which is like unto the smoke in color, is here. Meditate within it on the sweet and excellent Pavna Bija, Vayu whose Bija is yam, grey as a mass of smoke, with 4 arms, and seated on a black antelope. And within it also, meditate upon the abode of mercy, the stainless Lord, Hamsa, the sun, who is lustrous like the sun, and whose 2 hands make the gestures which grant boons and dispel the fears of the 3 worlds. Here dwells Kakini, who in color is yellow like unto new lightning, highly visible lightning before rain falls heavily, exhilarated and auspicious, 3-eyed and the benefactress of all. She wears all kinds of ornaments, and in her 4 hands she carries the noose and the skull, and makes the sign of blessing and the sign which dispels fear. Her heart is softened with the drinking of nectar. The Shakti whose tender body is like 10 million flashes of lightning is in the pericarp of this lotus in the form of a triangle, Trikona. When Shakti takes the form of a triangle, the head points down. Inside the triangle is a Shivalinga known by the name of Bana. This linga is like shining gold, and on his head is an orifice minute as that in a gem. He is the resplendent abode of Lakshmi. He who meditates on this heart lotus becomes, like the Lord of Speech, Braspati, the Guru of the Devas, and, like Isvara, he is able to protect and destroy the worlds. This lotus is like the celestial wishing tree, the abode and seat of self, Mahadeva, Shiva. It is beautified by the Hamsa, here, the Jivatma, which is like unto the steady tapering flame of a lamp in a windless place. The filaments which surround and adorn its pericarp, illumined by the solar region, charm. Foremost among yogis, he ever is dearer than the dearest to women. He is preeminently wise and full of noble deeds. His senses are completely under control. His mind in its intense concentration is engrossed in thoughts of the Brahman. His inspired speech flows like a stream of clear water. Vishuddha Chakra. In the throat is the lotus called Vishuddha, which is pure and of a smoky purple hue. All the 16 shining vowels on its 16 petals of a crimson hue are distinctly visible to him whose mind, buddhi, is illumined. In the pericarp of this lotus there is the ethereal region, circular in shape, and white like the full moon. On an elephant white as snow is seated the Bija of Ambara, who is white of color. Of his forearms, to hold the noose and goad, and the other to make the gestures of granting boons and dispelling fear, these add to his beauty. In his lap there ever dwells the great snow-white Deva, three-eyed and five-faced, with 10 beautiful arms, and clothed in a tiger's skin. His body is united with that of Girija, and he is known by what his name, Sadha Shiva, ever beneficent, signifies. Purer than the ocean of nectar is the Shakti Shakini who dwells in this lotus. Her raiment is yellow, and in her 4 lotus hands she carries the bow, the arrow, the noose, and the goad. The whole region of the moon without the mark of the hair is in the pericarp of this lotus. This region is a gateway of great liberation for him who desires the wealth of yoga and whose senses are pure and controlled. He who has attained complete knowledge of the Atma, Brahman, becomes by constantly concentrating his mind, Sita, on this lotus the great sage, eloquent and wise, and enjoys uninterrupted peace of mind. He sees the 3 periods, past, present, and future, and becomes the benefactor of all, free from disease and sorrows and long-lived, and, like Hamsa, the destroyer of endless dangers. The yogi, his mind constantly fixed on this lotus, his breath controlled by Kumbhaka, retention of breath and pranayam, is in his wrath able to move all the 3 worlds. Agya Chakra. The lotus named Agya is like the moon, beautifully white. On its 2 petals are the letters Ha and Ksa, which are also white and enhance its beauty. It shines with the glory of Dhyana. Inside it is the Shakti Hakini, whose 6 faces are like so many moons. She has 6 arms, in one of which she holds a book. The meaning is that she is making the mudra called Vidya or Pustaka, not that she is actually holding a book. 2 others are lifted up in the gestures of dispelling fear and granting boons, and with the rest she holds a skull, a small drum, damru, and a rosary. Her mind is pure, Siddhasita. Within this lotus dwells the subtle mind, Manas. It is well known. Inside the yoni in the pericarp is the Shiva called Ritara, that which enables one to cross Lala, in his phallic form. He here shines like a chain of lightning flashes. The first bija of the Vedas, Om, which is the abode of the most excellent Shakti and which by its luster makes visible the Brahma Sutra, is also there. The sadhaka with steady mind should meditate upon these according to the order prescribed. The excellent sadhaka, whose Atma is nothing but a meditation on this lotus, is able quickly to enter another's body at will, and becomes the most excellent among munis, and all-knowing and all-seeing. He becomes the benefactor of all, and versed in all the Sastras. He realizes his unity with the Brahman and acquires excellent and unknown powers, Siddhi. Full of fame and long-lived, he ever becomes the creator, destroyer, and preserver of the three worlds. Within the triangle in this chakra ever dwells the combination of letters which form the pranav, the word Om. It is the inner Atma as pure mind, Buddhi, and resembles a flame in its radiance. Above it is the half, crescent, moon, and above this, again, is Makara, shining in its form of Bindu. Above this is Nara, the half-moon symbol, whose whiteness equals that of Balram and diffuses the rays of the moon. When the yogi closes the house, make the Yoni Mudra, which detaches the inner self, Antapur, and mind, Manas, from the empirical world, which hangs without support, the knowledge whereof he has gained by the service of Paramaguru. And when the Sitas by repeated practice becomes dissolved in this place which is the abode of uninterrupted bliss, he then sees within the middle of and in the space above, the triangle, sparks of fire distinctly shining. He then also sees the light, the Jyoti, which is in the form of a flaming lamp. It is lustrous like the clearly shining morning sun, and glows between the sky, Gagana is equal to empty space above Shankhini Nadi, and the earth, Dharni is equal to Dhara Mandala in the Muladhara. It is here that the Bhagwan manifests himself in the fullness of his might. He knows no decay, and witnesseth all, and is here as he is in the region of fire, moon, and Sunday. This is the incomparable and delightful abode of Vishnu. Sahastrara Chakra. When the actions of the yogi are, through the service of the lotus feet of his Guru, in all respects good, then he will see above it, i.e., Agya Chakra, the form of the Mahanda, and will ever hold in the lotus of his hand the Siddhi of speech. The Mahanda, which is the place of dissolution of Vayu, is the half of Shiva, and like the plough in shape, is tranquil and grants boons and dispels fear, and makes manifest pure intelligence, Buddhi. Above all these, in the vacant space wherein is Shankhini Nadi, and below Visarg is the lotus of 1,000 petals. This lotus, lustrous and whiter than the full moon, has its head turned downward. It charms. Its clustered filaments are tinged with the color of the young Sunday. Its body is luminous with the letters beginning with A, and it is the absolute bliss. Within it, Sahastrara, is the full moon, without the mark of the hair, resplendent as in a clear sky. It sheds its rays in profusion, and is moist and cool like nectar. Inside it, Candra Mandala, constantly shining like lightning, is a triangle, and inside this, again, shines the great void which is served in secret by all the Suras, well concealed, and attainable only by great effort, is that subtle Bindu, Sunya, which is the chief root of liberation and which manifests the pure Nirvana Kala with Amakala. Here is the Deva who is known to all as Paramashiva. He is the Brahman and the Atma of all beings. In him are united both Rasa and Virsa, and he is the sun which destroys the darkness of nescience and delusion. By shading a constant and profuse stream of nectar-like essence, the Bhagwan instructs the Yati of pure mind in the knowledge by which he realizes the oneness of the Jivatma and the Paramatma. He pervades all things as their Lord, who is the ever-flowing and spreading current of all manner of bliss known by the name of Hansa Parama, Paramahansa. The Shaivas call it the abode of Shiva, the Vaisnavas call it Paramapurusha, others again call it the place of Harihara. Those who are filled with a passion for the lotus feet of the Devi call it the excellent abode of the Devi, and other great sages, Munis, call it the pure place of Prakriti Purusha. That most excellent of men who has controlled his mind and known this place is never again born in the wandering, as there is nothing in the three worlds which binds him. His mind being controlled and his aim achieved, he possesses complete power to do all which he wishes, and to prevent that which is contrary to his will. he ever moves towards the Brahman. His speech, whether in prose or verse, is ever pure and sweet. Here is the excellent, supreme, 16th Kala of the moon. She is pure and resembles, in color, the young Sunday. She is as thin as the 100th part of a fiber in the stalk of a lotus. She is lustrous and soft like 10 million lightning flashes, and is downturned. From her, whose source is the Brahman, flows copiously the continuous stream of nectar, or she is the receptacle of the stream of excellent nectar which comes from the blissful union of Para and Parama. Inside it, Amakala, is Nirvana Kala, more excellent than the excellent. She is as subtle as the 1000th part of the end of a hair, and of the shape of the crescent moon. She is the ever-existent Bhagavati, who is the Devta who pervades all beings. She grants divine knowledge, and is as lustrous as the light of all the suns shining at one and the same time. Within its middle space, i.e., middle of the Nirvana Kala, shines the supreme and primordial Nirvana Shakti. She is lustrous like 10 million suns, and is the mother of the three worlds. She is extremely subtle, and like unto the 10 millionth part of the end of a hair. She contains within her the constantly flowing stream of gladness, and is the life of all beings. She graciously carries the knowledge of the truth, Tattva, to the mind of the sages. Within her is the everlasting place called the abode of Shiva, which is free from Maya, attainable only by yogis, and known by the name of Nityananda. It is replete with every form of bliss, and is pure knowledge itself. Some call it the Brahman, others call it Hamsa. Wise men describe it as the abode of Vishnu, and righteous men speak of it as the ineffable place of knowledge of the Atma. Kundalini. He whose nature is purified by the practice of Yam, Niyama, and the like, learns from the mouth of his Guru the process which opens the way to the discovery of the great liberation. He whose whole being is immersed in the Brahman then rouses the D6 by Hamkara, pierces the center of the Linga, the mouth of which is closed, and is therefore invisible, and by means of the air and fire, within him, places her within the Brahmadvara. The D6 who is Suddhasattva pierces the three Lingas, and, having reached all the lotuses which are known as the Brahmanadi lotuses, shines therein in the fullness of her luster. Thereafter in her subtle state, lustrous like lightning and fine like the lotus fiber, she goes to the gleaming flame like Shiva, the supreme bliss, and of a sudden produces the bliss of liberation. The wise and excellent yogi wrapped in ecstasy, and devoted to the lotus feet of his Guru, should lead Kula Kundali, Sikh, along with Jiva to her Lord the Parashiva in the abode of liberation within the pure lotus, and meditate upon her who grants all desires as a Katanyarupa Bhagavati. When he thus leads Kula Kundalini, he should make all things absorb into her. The beautiful Kundali, Sikh, drinks the excellent red nectar issuing from Parashiva, and returns from there where shines eternal and transcendent bliss in all its glory along the path of Kula, and again enters the Muladhara. The yogi who has gained steadiness of mind makes offering, Tarpana, to the Ishtadevta and to the Devtas in the 6 centers, Chakra, Dakini and others, with that stream of celestial nectar which is in the vessel of Brahmanda, the knowledge whereof he has gained through the tradition of the Gurus. The yogi who has after practice of Yam, Niyama, and the like, learned this excellent method from the 2 lotus feet of the auspicious Diksha Guru, which are the source of uninterrupted joy, and whose mind, Manas, is controlled, is never born again in this world, Samsara. For him there is no dissolution even at the time of final dissolution. Gladdened by constant realization of that which is the source of eternal bliss, he becomes full of peace and foremost among all yogis. If the yogi who is devoted to the lotus feet of his Guru, with heart unperturbed and concentrated mind, reads this work which is the supreme source of the knowledge of liberation, and which is faultless, pure, and most secret, then of a very surety his mind dances at the feet of his Ishtadevta.